everyone? Welcome to Hair Metal Revolution. You guys know the saying. We're taking the music back and giving it the respect that it deserves. I got an awesome guest named Birch from Flickering Box. Now, guys, one of the things I love about Birch is he's honest about the music. I used to follow him and watch him when he had guests on where you used to play like a video that you grew up on, and you had your co-host give her opinion of, what it was like growing up. And I love that because that's always the question, like, what does the new generation think of our music? Everybody has the 60s and 70s, but 80s is always that weird, era that there's people who love it or there's people who make fun of it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Well, and I love how you got that perspective. And of course, you went through what most people that does music channels go through is you can't play music no more. You play certain songs, boom, you're striked.
No, we don't. We actually don't play anything anymore. I actually had to take them all down. And I know some of the other creators, and what they don't tell you is it actually tanks your channel. So you get, I wouldn't say blacklisted, but you're basically blacklisted on YouTube and we're just now digging out of the hole. If you delete your entire library, they treat you like a pariah.
Yep.
So, and it sucked because, at one time we were doing 1 million views a month. We were clocking probably 8,000 to 10,000 people, new subscribers a month. It was absolute insanity. And then it's all gone with the quickness. What are you going to do?
That? Because what you're really, truly doing is you're promoting songs that are not going to get promoted otherwise. So you're really helping people discovering that band, that song. And what happens is they go out, they restream it, they listen to the song, and it causes money in the background for the artist or whoever owns the rights to that. And I don't understand why these companies can't see that, because you're not like doing a whole hour just on that one song. You know what I mean? You're doing it, you're discussing it.
And this is, so we've had this conversation before where for me, I don't understand certain things, and that's why it got so frustrating. And one of the big frustrating things for me, I don't mind following rules as long as you apply them equally across the board. So the problem is when you talk about music reaction channels or anything like that, the rules are not applied equally. Because, for example, we had where things kind of got really testy for me was we had a Joan Jett video, Meatloaf, and Skid Row. And these are ones that were some of our older videos, had, big viewership on it. And they had gone back a year and a half into our catalog and started to hit us for copyright on these ones that had actually been on our channel for a while. Yeah. And then you go look, and there's other people out there that were posting the same videos that day or the next day, and they don't mess with them. So it's not applied equally, and I don't understand why. I actually wrote to one of the biggest contributors to that was Sony BMI. They were one of the big culprits on that, where they were just hitting everything we were doing, old catalog stuff. And I didn't understand it. And you cannot get them. They will not give you an answer as to why they're doing it, because I don't believe that they actually know. I think it's all botted. I think everything that they're doing is geared off of some weird ass algorithm that they do. So I have no idea why they do it, but it is crazy. And I'll tell you why. We don't get a dime from that. Have you ever done music reactions?
Yes.
We don't get a dime. Whenever you post something, it gets hit and you file your copyright. You contest it, and then they let it go right after your 48-hour period. Then they let you keep it up, but they take all the money. Like, we weren't getting a dime. It's funny, on our Tupac video, we had the second most watched Tupac reaction, and on Dear Mama, and it had over 1 million views. And you don't get a dime from that. They do. the whatever label or whatever recording company actually has the rights to that song. So we don't get a dime from it. They get it all. So it's not like we're making money from it. And that's where everybody got it wrong. They're like, oh, you must be making bank, dude. You're doing 1 million views. And it's like, man, we're not doing anything. It costs us money.
You know, it doesn't make sense. And like, here, let me show this. Because I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, if I just kind of like, I'm not going to show everybody everything, but copyright claims, like look at this, copyright claims, copyright claims. I mean, it's just constantly copyright claims. And I know exactly what you're saying is like, there's like 3 kind of ways a company can go after you. They can say, hey, you can have the video up, but we get the revenue money. In most cases, sure, take it because I'm not making no money, you know, or they can say, or they can force it, take it down. Third, they can just strike you. And you know, you get that strike, and the problem is, like you're saying, you're shadow banned. And people, shadow ban is real. And what shadow ban people, is like, yeah, your videos are up. You can do live shows, but they're not pushing you out no more. They're like rejecting you on how much they can push you out.
Well, it's actually more insipidous than that, because so with us, we're just now digging out. But when we post anything, even the people who have rung the bell, like you always hear people say, you know, subscribe and make sure you click the bell. That way you get notified every time we upload a brand new video. We all say the same thing. The problem is when you click that bell, you're supposed to get notified every time somebody uploads something. I have people still emailing me to this day wondering what happened that we're not uploading. I'm like, dude, we're going live twice a week at least. And now we're posting shorts. I started clipping out our live shows because it's been a building process of exactly where do I want to take the channel. After Alexis left last year, we've been kind of in flux. And that was actually one of the reasons for blowing up the studio. That's why I'm kind of where I'm at now. We've spent 2.5 months redoing this whole studio and where it's more functional. And because it wasn't functional before, it was set up for basically for our little space. So we were close and we could talk and we could interact. And anybody who watched our older videos, that's actually what sold everything, was the interaction. It was her take on things. And when I had Steph here before, my very first co-host, you know, it was the same way. We liked the intimacy of being close to each other when we would talk about these. And but now it's a whole different setup. But one thing I did want to mention, there is another track to doing your live your reactions. You can also split the revenue. Yeah. And some of the artists, Tyler Childers, he split the revenue. Sturgill Simpson, almost all of the country people, like the kind of red dirt country guys, those guys, they split the revenue. So you actually did make a couple bucks off of them. Now you didn't get the views that you got, but Zach Bryan, he also does split revenue on some of the songs, not all of them. So it just all depends. But we don't do anything on this channel anymore. Nothing copyrighted. We don't play music here. We don't do anything. If we do the live reaction shows off channel on my website.
I don't know what's going on right now. I want to apologize to people because I'm getting text. People are putting in comments, but the comments are not showing up. Oh. And that's kind of funny because I was telling Birch before the show, I'm getting this thing saying YouTube rejects your comment. This usually means they think it's spam. So no comments are coming up at all. I don't know if it's a StreamYard deal or not. That's kind of weird.
Let me look at mine.
I have a backup computer here and I typed in something and I don't even see it. So
I don't see it on mine either. Let's see.
So I apologize to everybody if you guys have questions. I can't. Okay.
I'll go ahead and try it out for you. Hey, Steve.
Yeah, I have a backup computer and nothing's coming up. Yeah. Oh no, something came up on your end.
Okay, there you go.
But I'm using another channel, and nothing's coming up on that. Wow, that is weird. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on.
It happens. Look, technical difficulties. I've had a bad series of the last 2 weeks where Microsoft did an update on Windows, and now they switch out of my my mixing board. They switch it to, because my mixing board comes in on the USB-C, but it switches over to the Blackmagic, my video camera switcher, and that one doesn't carry audio, and it forces my software to carry that audio from Blackmagic, and that's where I have to go over and I have to switch it. I got Monica now where she can switch it, and she's learning all the problems that happen with that. So we actually talked about going to Linux.
Oh yeah, I remember you guys' conversation about that. You know, I've been completely happy with Apple, and I've been using Apple for the last, 5-10 years.
Yeah,
Apple just works. If something doesn't work, you restart it, it just works.
Yep. I'm one of those guys. I'm like, I'm so anti-Apple. I don't care. I would rather chisel it on a stone and use crayons.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I feel like that with Microsoft.
Look, Microsoft is right there with them. I hate that equally. It just they've broken it to the point they just stuff so much in there, man. So it's what it is. But yeah,
and I live in Microsoft country up here in Seattle.
Oh, that's where you're out of?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, up in the way northwest.
Yeah, we're in Central Florida, so.
Oh man, this is fun because the last 2 days, I got to talk to great people. I'm talking to you today, yesterday. I did a recorded video with a channel called Hairband Basement.
Okay.
Got a guy named Jay on I went to them. We were talking about top 5 blues rock songs, and there's something that I love. We all talk to each other because I feel like, music. I'm not saying it's a dying breed, but it takes a community like all of us to keep it alive. And I talked a little bit about this yesterday. Like, listen, we all love to have big interviews, right? Like if Brett Michaels called me up and said, "Hey, exclusive, I want to interview you." Great, Brett, you come on. But keeping music alive is people like us. That's what keeps music alive, because I've learned that people. I'm not saying stars don't tell 100% truth, but you never know what's true in the background, what's not. And when you talk to people from different communities, it's more honest, it's more down the earth, and I feel like people love that down the earth type of stuff. Now you're only like a few years older than I am, and it's always intriguing to me. Is I told this yesterday, like a lot of people are older than me. Every time you ask them, like, what bands influence you, right? And most people, it's always almost the same answer. It's always like the same answer. It's either the Beatles, Rolling Stones. It's always like I'm not, and listen, I'm not making fun of those bands at all, but it's always like Black Sabbath and those. And somebody asked me, like, Eric, what's your bands? I'm like, oh, it's Mötley Crüe. It's Dokken. Sure. It's Ozzy Osbourne. Oh, you mean Black Sabbath? I go, no, Ozzy. Because when I got into music, I didn't even know Black Sabbath existed. My first taste was Ozzy Osbourne with Blizzard of Oz and Diary of a Madman. Because I always say, I don't always say this, but I always feel like when you're around 10 years old, it's probably when you start discovering music. Because when I was 10 years old, it was 1983. I discovered Def Leppard. And Mötley Crüe, Too Fast for Love, and Shout Devil just came out, Diary Madman. So that's the music that I got hooked on, because that was the music I really heard first. The only thing I knew about Kiss was, and I brought this story up on Sunday, that only thing I knew about Kiss was I remember watching in 1978 Kiss meets Phantom of the Park.
Yep.
Right? Because I had bigger brothers. They're like, it was like an event. Hey, we're gonna watch this Kiss event, and then like I saw the band with makeup. I didn't know anything about it, but then in 1983 there was a cassette, right? Lick It Up. I'm like, who's that? That's Kiss. I thought they had makeup. See, I didn't know they took the makeup off, because I was just learning music, and I was curious, like with you, when you got into music, what was like your influence, and what was like the first music that you heard?
I can tell you exactly what it was. So when I was I think 5 or 6. I got a Fisher Price record player, and it had this little bitty speaker on the side, little plastic arm. And my mom got me 2 records, and it was Johnny Horton, which was Battle of New Orleans on the A side and Sink the Bismarck on the B side. And it was Buddy Holly, Every Day on the A side and Roller Coaster on the B side. And I was the Buddy Holly guy from jump. That guy hung the moon for me. And it was weird because I grew up in a big family. I had lots of older brothers and sisters. I mean, much older, some around my age, but it spanned a pretty large gap. So they were into everything from rockabilly to Dan Fogelberg and Karen Carpenter and Joan Baez and it ran the gamut. And my one brother, I remember he brought home Kiss Destroyer. And God, I was
nice,
like 7, something like that. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. That's really cool stuff. But I also like disco. And I like Donna Summer, man. I like that stuff.
I like ABBA. I'm an ABBA fan. I don't give a shit. I love ABBA.
All of them. And it's so funny. And for years when I was growing up, I seemed to be the only person who liked to cop to the fact that I was made by Kiss. And nobody liked that song. And they're like, oh, I hate the disco Kiss. And I'm like, I love that song. I was the only guy in my high school that copped to it. And I'm like, no, bitch, I like that song. But it ran the gamut. And then it slowly progressed into, I liked, I was into country at that time, being here in Central Florida. We went to, I would see John Anderson, Charlie Daniels back then. And we have a place up here called Zellwood Corn Festival. And, they used to draw some pretty big acts. And here in Central Florida, my mom would, we'd go around to see some of these guys, all country. And so I grew up on literally everything, including classical and stuff. And then it just kind of migrated more towards the rock metal end, but still had the country feel. So it was, and then you migrate into, for me, I had the most eclectic mix. I was into mini trucking through the 90s, and I had a 10-disc changer. And people used to make fun of my changer because I had everything from Ghetto Boys to Hank Jr. to Rush 2112 to Paganini, and it was like this just muddled mix of different things. And it depends on what mood you're in. So I was raised on everything, and I gravitated more towards rock and metal. It just that the metal era, I came along at a perfect time because God, when I'm 12 and 13, all the big ones were starting to be released. You had Screaming for Vengeance, you had High and Dry, you had Too Fast for Love. And my very first album that I ever bought with my own money. And that's one of the big things I always ask people when I do interviews. And you get the most eclectic answers from rock stars when you're like, but most of them remember the very first album because, and this is one of the things I talked to, them about. It was, for us, it was ritual, right? It was the first coming of age thing that you did, which was you had your own money, you went into a record store and you bought your album, one that you picked, not that your mom gave you. And the very first one I bought, I still own, and that is Iron Maiden, Peace of Mind.
Wow.
This is my brother, Dr. Wu.
Yeah, I didn't know anybody was on a show. I was taking a shit, and Eric sent me a text, and I was getting my stuff set up, and Eric's like, come on the show, man. Like, okay. So I just popped in. I had no idea you were in here. I'm like, whoa.
Shit. like Dr. Wuto, like in the 80s, and one of the things that used to be an event was we grew up in a town called Kermit outside of Fresno, California. So you don't get a lot of bands that comes to Fresno.
No.
You just didn't. Most bands go to LA, San Francisco, you know. So when a band came to Fresno, it was like an event. I mean, it's like everybody got backup trucks. I mean, back in the days where we could drive back in the trucks, no seatbelt, you know, and we all just drive through the grapevine, through the fog, to concerts. I mean,
we saw everything. Ned's Atomic Dustbin, you know, Jane's Addiction, Poison. It don't matter. Oingo, Eric and I were at the Oingo Boingo concert because that's why we have a good variety, because we didn't have many people that came here. So a lot of people are like, well, who's coming? What's on the venue? Well, Oingo Boingo. Well, who are they? We'll find out when we get there. You know, we have a great time.
Well, here in Central Florida, we had a pretty good concert scene, and that was one of the big, like, we had Orlando, we had Daytona, and we had Lakeland Civic Center, which Lakeland Civic Center was circus seating. That was the event. And when you went, like, I saw World Slavery there. Actually, I took my wife, her very first concert, when I met her. She had never been to a metal concert, and I took her to Lock Up the Wolves, Dio. And it was, you know, it was but we had such a robust scene here in Central Florida because everybody came here. And, you know, those are some of your earliest memories are going to concerts. And for me as a photographer, getting my first Minolta cameras, you know, taken by security. And, you know, that's kind of one of those rites of passage. It's like you're trying to sneak your camera in. This is before they would allow it, before I went to disposables.
You made sure you didn't have any pictures of your wife naked, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, hey, no, don't take that. Don't take that.
It was, you know, concerts here were such a big deal. And especially at that time for us, you know, we would go at you know, World Slavery. I just turned 15, and you know, I was like 2 days out, and it was, but that was the life. It was what's the next concert you're going to, and it was to wear the shirt, right? Because that was the badge of honor, man. You come into school the next day or that Monday, and you're wearing the concert shirt, and you knew the fakes because they didn't have the dates on the back.
But now was your school? See, our school. Next day, like my first concert was Poison and Rat, right? So I got a Rat shirt. In our school, you wear any kind of a hard rock heavy metal shirt, people like, oh, you're a metalhead, and they get treated like you're trash.
I got kicked out of school for being a Satanist.
You did?
I think I'm lying.
Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh no. I played Dungeons and Dragons, and I had to go sit in front of a large school board, like everybody. And my dad was sitting there going, "What's going on?" I said, "Apparently, I eat babies." And I talk to the devil.
So at our school, and so I'm from a very rural, conservative Central Florida town. And at our school, I posted some of these pictures, and we've talked about this a bit. I have pictures of me when I was like, 13, I think. I was in 8th grade, and I wore my Mob Rules shirt. And so this is 83, I think, 84, something like that. And so my Mob Rule shirt, they didn't even make me turn it inside out. They made me go home and take it off because it was so offensive to them. Now my Mötley Crüe Shot at the Devil, when that came out, because that was the black one with the pentagram. Yeah. And they made us turn that one inside out, slide it in White Snake. They made you turn that one inside out. Wow. And so you'd walk around, but that was also a badge of courage, you know, and for us, there was only a few metalheads I was a band geek. So like the entire collection of metalheads for the most part was a drum section of our band in like 6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
Well, you're good because I was half band geek. I couldn't get out of band. I played football, and then at halftime I had to go play because I was the only one able to carry the bass. You know the big bass?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Nobody could carry it. It was too big.
The tri-toms. Nobody could carry those, so you had to get the big guy. Whatever was the biggest dude that was in the drum section, he either got the carry bass or he got the tri-toms.
Yeah, so I couldn't leave, and I quit to play football, and then the band instructor went and talked to the coach. Says, "Well, I need him at halftime," and I'm like, "I don't want to do it." And they're like, "You have
a couple
to."
of those.
Nobody could do it.
Yeah, we had a couple of those that had to pull double duty.
Yeah,
but you know what's funny? You were talking about D&D.
Yeah.
I actually still have my. There's this, especially a conservative town, when D&D first came out. I think it was like I have my first monster manual from 77, and you know one of the people that I work with, she plays a lot of these role player games, and one of them, of course, is D&D, and we have this conversation about D&D, and I showed her that clip of John Barenthal. Have you seen that where he's with the lady who's a dungeon master, and she asks him if he wants to play?
I'm bad with names. Is that an actor?
Yeah, John Barenthal. Yeah, he was Shane on Walking Dead.
Oh, the Punisher guy.
Yeah.
Oh, Punisher. Yeah. Okay.
Did he play something with D&D? I'm trying to think of. I don't remember.
So when this is over, you have to go look this up. So what it is, he's doing an interview with this young lady who's she's a DM, and she writes her own things for TSR, and she's amazing. Anyway, so they're talking about it, and she asks him, she goes, "Do you want to play?" They're talking about D&D, and he's like, "Sure." And so she starts like just verbally walking him through a scenario and with a bugbear. But the coolest thing in the world happens. He takes to it like a fish to water, like very intuitive questions. And he just and so they're going through the scenario, and he starts asking like pretty advanced questions, right? Because that's how his brain works. He's inquisitive. And it's one of like everybody I know that plays, we all looked at it and went, "Whoa." And he just understands it right away. And she goes, "We're playing D&D." And he goes, "Wow, that was really cool." No, it's amazing.
I'm just showing. I got a bunch of Dungeons and Dragons stuff right here in this room.
Yeah. I played because I couldn't. I mean, I graduated high school at 15, and I got an advanced degree and all that stuff from college and everything because I guess I'm kind of smart. But I really couldn't focus in school very well. So all the nerds I used to hang out. I didn't hang out with nerds because I was really cool, but they helped me pass all my classes, and they all play Dungeons and Dragons. And they're like, "Well, if you want our help, you need to come play Dungeons and Dragons." And I'm like, "Well, we got to worship the devil or what?" I said, "I don't mind. I don't care. Roll me up. I don't give a shit." So yeah, they rolled me. I was a half dwarf, half elf, which is a freaky thing. They thought it was a joke. They all laughed. And then my god, I was chaotic neutral, and my god was Dionysus.
Okay,
just sums the whole thing up. But I learned that it was fun. Strategically, it's brilliant. Brilliant,
hands down. No, I haven't played for a while, and I mentioned that to her. I haven't played. I used to play. The last time I played as with a bigger group was probably mid 90s. I mean, I still have my character folders and stuff, and we had talked about actually running through with like some of her friends and actually running through some of the modules, doing a live stream doing it.
I got to answer this question real quick from Dewey. Dr. Wu, is that Bob? You're gonna love this. You're gonna love this comment. You always ask people about your shirt. Dr. Wu, is that a Flying Burrito Brothers shirt that you're wearing?
You damn right it is. You damn right it's.
Don't know that shirt, so this has got to be a win for Bob.
It's Flying Burrito Brothers, my brother. Absolutely, yes, it is.
Bob, you got your first comment asking you, is that the shirt?
It's the most unknown band ever existed that are badass and nobody knows. I mean, nobody. It's like rare.
Doobie knew it.
You know what I love about this conversation, Birch, and of course Dr. Wu, is nowadays you could, and I'm not saying it's to say this. everything's so breaking down that you can wear whatever you want in school. There's nothing shocking, but it wasn't like that through the 80s. I mean,
No.
Bob had it when Bob and his group were in school talking about Dungeons and Dragons. They didn't know there was a game, so they thought Bob and them was this Satanist group.
We're saying
And he got sent to a special school. Like,
yeah,
I was one of the first kids in elementary school that had an earring. Right, a teacher walked up to me and said, "Boys don't wear this," and took it out. I mean, that was just the era that we lived in.
I had three of them.
The name heavy metal, hair metal, those titles were meant to basically saying, "Oh, you're one of those people. You're trash."
Well, was, there was a lot of that. So that was a time of even going a little bit further back. The Satanic Panic just kind of carried.
Oh yeah.
And and we talked about that with, to me, it goes even further back. So that actually tracks to me back to the late 70s, early 80s. I think it started around that Jim Morrison in the 60s and just kind of didn't quite get that real push until the early 80s. But I'm old enough to remember, and I've talked about this, where when Pat Benatar came out with Hell's for Children, and for somebody like me who comes from an extremely abusive household, when that song came out, it was.
Were you sexually molested?
No, but my dad was a very abusive guy.
Ah, fuck.
But those are things that you didn't talk about then. So when Pat came out with that song, it was like, holy crap, I'm not alone. I thought I was the only one. Me and my brothers, we thought that we were the only ones. And we just didn't discuss it. And then here she is talking about it. And what's crazy is I'm old enough to remember when they were burning her albums.
Oh, yeah.
And steamrolling her albums because they said it was, to Hell's for Children, that she was somehow devil worshiping. And I'm like, listen to the song. Like it was the most, but that was to me one of the starts of that whole era of the Satanic.
And then you had Tipper Gore.
Oh God, Marcy, Phyllis Schlafly.
Oh yeah.
You had, for me, one of my, by then, I raced BMX back then. Also skateboarding.
BMX. I skated.
What's that?
Oh, I skated. Yeah, I had a BMX and I skated. So both of those.
So the through lines for a lot of people our age. So like when like at that time I was really heavy into it. We were traveling. I was number 2 in the country at that time in my age bracket. But I got away from that. I liked the individualism of skateboarding. So I'd done a little bit of that on the side for quite a while. And then just kind of gravitated towards that. But I remember Jello Biafra.
Did you listen to Kate Bush when you skateboarded?
No, God, no.
Oh, man. You didn't fly in the sky. I was into,
like, back then, it was Dead Kennedys. It was Joy Division. It was
Joy Division,
Bad Brains. It was Sepultura.
Dead Kennedys.
Yeah.
Suicidal Tendencies. I see your mommy and your mommy's dead. I see your mommy in a pool of red. I thought it was the coolest thing I ever did see. I'm sorry.
One of the coolest things, Agent Orange. We did a reaction to an Agent Orange song, and their drummer actually commented on it. Oh, and I was like, they were playing Kona. That I couldn't get up there, but I was like, how cool was that? For me, anyway, that was really cool because it's like, I've been listening to Agent Orange forever, and they were, these guys were, all of to me, the punk guys were gods.
Yeah.
But going back to the Satanic Panic, Jello Biafra, the lead singer for Dead Kennedys, he was the first person put on trial for lyrics and an album cover. He had the Frankenchrist album cover that was just an H.R. Giger painting. And Tipper was the one who facilitated that. And so if you go back and you actually look at the trial, the outcome was not certain. This is long before Two Live Crew. So as a skateboarder, First Amendment kind of guy, it was like, and seeing the Judas Priest trials and Ozzy and, the Suicide Solution and, that whole thing. But these were turmoil times for people, but it galvanized the metal community, at least for my friends. It galvanized us, even the punk people.
But isn't it funny now how Tip Gore's husband, Al Gore, in the future put on a big, huge rock concert to electricity? It's just like
contradiction.
It's contradiction. But there's a new song that actually came out today from a punk icon from the 80s that I didn't know this song was coming out today. Social Distortion has a brand new song that came out today.
Yeah, they're on tour. They're going on tour.
Yeah. Born to Kill. Brand new song just came out today. And Bob, it's ironic that their new album comes out on my birthday. So it's like, wow.
Are you going to go see them in concert? Because Eric and I have traditionally always saw them. It's one of my favorite bands to see in concert. Oh God,
they're not coming to Florida. That's the only problem. So I'm going to have to travel for them. So, but if they come, I think so what happens is when these guys go out on tour, and I always kind of wait to see how far south they get. But a lot of times they don't make it any further south than, say, Tennessee.
Oh, but see, we get on stage because Eric's son has been there for all the concerts, and Mike Ness knows Eric's son now.
Oh, wow.
Man, I should have got this picture. I have a picture of my son's only 5 years old upstage with Mike Ness, because my son had a shirt that we created called Old School, and that wasn't even a term that was really used yet. Not yet. And after my son was on stage, about a couple months later, Social D came out with some shirts that said Old School.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And every time we do a concert and he brings his son, he kind of looks over and he sees him there and he gets him back up on stage again.
Yeah, he was on stage twice.
Funny.
Yeah, because he saw him as 5 and he sees him as he grows up. And we're like, yeah, we're connected to Mike Ness. This is nice.
Yeah, I think I saw they have, I think it's like 10 or 12 dates scheduled. But nothing, I think, further south than like Tennessee or something.
Well,
so I always wait till later, because eventually what winds up happening is they'll add dates, and you always see this with like some of those bands, because they don't, coming this far south is a little tough, and you're going to go to like Tampa, it's a pretty decent venue, but it's a lot of money, and touring's hard nowadays. It's very difficult to get people, that aren't huge national acts or festivals to come down this way.
Well, it's hard because it's the cost.
Sure it is.
I mean, it's the cost. Now, Bob, my brother had a plan this year, but it's not going to happen. At the time, I thought that Poison was going to do a 40-year anniversary tour, and the thing is, Rat and Poison was the very first concert I ever went to. So the very first act was Poison. They were opening act. So that's the first band I ever saw on an arena level. So it was almost going to be like a full circle, like first band ever saw. I mean, I don't want to die tomorrow, but might be the last concert I ever saw. And he was going to fly down.
It would be nice.
But of course, I guess that tour is not going to happen this year. But
yeah, Eric and I moved to Seattle for the grunge right in the 90s. I got out of the military, and Eric's like, we're going to Seattle. So we moved from California to Seattle to follow the music. And so we were in the heart of grunge, man. I mean, we had all the bands.
I'm going that way.
Well, because at Fresno there was no live clubs. There was nothing.
No.
Okay.
And you in LA, Sunset Strip was on its last legs in a small way. So it was like Seattle was the last place that produced live bands. Now, of course, Seattle's not even that no more. Now everybody's telling me Tennessee, Nashville, Tennessee is the last place where you see country and rock.
Well, yeah, I went from Seattle, and then I followed the music and I lived in Manchester for like 5 years. So I was in Manchester for a while. Yeah, I wanted to follow the music there. So a lot of good bands came out of Manchester, England. So I got to see the Seattle scene. I got to see the Manchester scene. Got to see the Fresno scene. And then hopefully soon, I don't know. Is there a scene?
No.
I don't know where to go anymore.
No,
unless you go to like Europe.
Yeah, I'm about to go. Or hell. We'll go to hell.
Europe, it depends on what you're actually after. So if you're from what I've seen, Europe has always been kind of like the incubator for metal. And Europe and Japan, like
Malestein.
Well, and it's always been that kind of undercurrent, like German and this goes all the way back to like, Scorps and Accept and but there's always been that kind of undercurrent along with England, right? They've always kind of had that little incubator of metal that goes kind of unnoticed.
Yeah.
But here in the States, the problem, and we've talked about this, and it's not unrecognized, and everybody that I've interviewed lately, we've had this conversation, from Milienko on Steel Heart and Jeff from Dokken. We talk about the clubs are not there for bands to cut their teeth and to
not anymore
grow. And back when we were there, you would go, when I was in high school, there were bars here in town. There were at least 5 bars in town that you could go play your little garage band, and you could go play on a Friday night, that they would let you in there at 17 years old, 16, 17, and you would play the 5 o'clock, just, straggler hour, where nobody's there, and they would let you in there. But that's how you learned how to play in front of nobody.
That's how you learn your craft.
That's exactly. And nowadays they don't have that. And these guys they don't have that push to learn how to deal with no crowds, or deal with a rowdy crowd, or deal with just playing to 3 people and learning how to put on a show for them. They go to TikTok.
Yeah.
There's a big difference there. There is a huge difference. Live feedback from people that hate you is great for bands.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. But like in Seattle, I talked to some of these club owners that they had to shut down because the city became more tech city because of Amazon and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So buildings got so outpriced,
Mm-hmm.
they got shoved out.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. And then they
not
stopped
the same
shipping
in the
heroin in.
suburbs,
There was no more heroin. So a lot of the grunge singers are just,
cocaine and heroin,
everything left, man.
Well,
now they've got crack, they got crack weed in every corner now.
It's a problem in music. And it's you see a lot of these talented kids, and I don't watch them anymore, and there's a lot of them online, and you see them and they're playing they're playing Yngwie or Steve Vai or Tony McAlpine, and they're just these amazing, technically gifted kids at like 6 years old.
Sad.
And they're able to just kill it, right?
You need to get them addicted to drugs early, and have them learn to sexually harass. Always learn to sexually harass and take drugs early. That way you become that artist that you want to be, like back in the day.
But the problem is these kids, and they're sitting there, and there's a difference of being able to stand up, play your instrument, and not just play with the backing track, to play with somebody and actually understand. I always point to if a kid wants to understand how to learn how to play with other people and learn how to feel with what they're doing, watch the video of, and I've had this conversation before, I'm like, you want to see something great? Watch Stevie Ray play with Albert King.
Yeah, Stevie Ray Vaughan. Oh,
when you watch those two play together, where they're in the studio just shooting the crap and talking, and then they play together, and you watch them, and it's like dancing. Watching them feel off how each other one's playing and which one jumps in where, or what fill they run to. And they just instinctually know, and that doesn't happen overnight. It comes from playing with other people, and that comes from playing in bars.
Yes.
But you're never going to have the connection again. You're never going to have that connection because,
no.
Back in the day when you bought an album, right? You're looking at the cover, you're opening it up, you're reading the lyrics, all this. You don't do that no more. So there's no more connection. There's no
exploited females.
And when you stream, right? You pick the one song. You don't listen to the whole album.
Well, and
there's no more connections.
I used to read on the albums the like credits that they would give to like my friend so and so, or whoever was the costume mistress or whatever. And you would read these and you would kind of envision who these people were, that you had no idea what they looked like. But for me, I would read through the lyrics and then I would get to the credits and I would read all the credits. Who did they thank?
Yeah.
Which were they playing Zildjian, and what drumsticks were they wearing, or hey, I'd like to thank, Ernie Ball for supplying the strings, or, Jim at Jackson, USA. And it's like, okay, well, who the hell's Jackson? And it's like, these are things though that were curious that you did when you were, alone in your room and, in a different frame of mind.
Well,
yeah.
But
you ain't ever gonna see a band like Mötley Crüe ever again. And what I mean by that is Mötley Crüe could never do anything wrong. They got away with everything because they were out open. The rapping, the drugs,
drunk
they were
driving,
so out open.
sexual harassment.
You, right? But if any other band did what they did, they would be out of town.
Right. Morrison had his penis out on stage. I mean, the good old days. You need to take all the Adderall from the kids, take all the Adderall and dump it upside down and fill it with massive amounts of tabs of acid, because every child should experience acid, not Adderall or mushrooms or marijuana.
But here's the thing also. When we were growing up, you didn't have like these bands. You didn't know what they did. You never saw them live like you can now on YouTube. You had to read about them in Metal Edge or Circus or whatever the magazine was that you read, Hit Parader. And you read about these bands. Like for me, when I told the story where when I was 17, I was working at a pizza place and
nice.
And my friend comes in and we're at this burger joint here by the house. And I'm with my friend and I'm going to have to go to work here in a couple hours. And so we're just sitting there and we're eating a burger and some fries. And my friend comes in, he goes, "Hey man, I got some, I can't go to Crüe tonight. I got some tickets. Do you want to buy them?" I was like, I look at my other friend. I was like, "You want to go to Crüe?" And he goes, "Hell yeah." So I'm like, "Okay, I'll buy it." So we bought them. It's in 87. And so we hop in the Gremlin, we go to the thing, and it's a whole thing. My Gremlin blew up on the way there. We drove it anyway. We pull in like full Wayne's World, like car just smoking like a mosquito fog machine. And so it was Girls, Girls, Girls tour at Lakeland, and this unknown band who had just released an album. And that I had read about Nikki Sixx and Hit Parader talking about, and he said, man, he was high on this band. He goes, yeah, their album's coming out. These guys are just the real people. They're not hair metal people. They're rock. Yeah. And it was Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, I never got into them. Eric liked them.
Oh my God.
Eric, did you? Are you? I wasn't. I mean, I liked them. I wouldn't buy their album, but I'd put on them.
I was never a huge Guns N' Roses fan. I mean, hold on. I mean,
a lot of people were, so we're not putting you down. I mean, most people were. I just couldn't never.
I never fully got into them.
There's a couple of bands that I have seen in my lifetime that when you see them as an opening band, when you don't know who they are. So like Appetite had just dropped, and when we saw them, it only been out for like a month or two. It wasn't even on the radio yet. MTV had basically tanked Welcome to the Jungle. So that wasn't going anywhere. They were just kind of floundering for the next.
Yeah, it took them a year to have a hit.
It did.
Yeah.
They over a year hit until because Welcome was released first, then Sweet Child of Mine. But Welcome tanked. And then Sweet Child like picked up steam on MTV, and then of course everything blew up. But when we saw them, we didn't know who they were. I just read about them, right? We didn't know who these guys were. We had never seen them. When I tell you that when we were done with that concert, now that was when Tommy first unveiled the spinning drum kit, where it comes out over the crowd, rotates, and which was life altering for us. Of course, we were just completely hot. But it was great. But Guns N' Roses was such a memorable act. The first thing we did the next day was we went to the mall and we bought Appetite. We dug through the bin, we saw it, we're like, that we gotta hear.
Yeah.
They're very
99.9% of my friends all loved Guns N' Roses. Everybody did. I mean, Eric and I are a minority, and I don't know what it is. I just don't. We don't know.
That was an electric.
Like them. I was mad because everybody already put a crown king on them, like this is brand new
Yes.
music. When other bands like Faster Pussycat was raw, just as they were, LA Guns, and somehow they got the credit for like this new. They they brought back rock, but the rock was already there. You know, one of the bands that I feel like they were big, but they never got more credit than they should have got. And the band I'm talking about is Rat. Rat should have gotten way more credit, because if you take Stephen Pierce's voice away, just listen to the sound of Rat, the drums, the bass, the funk, the blues, Way Cool Jr. And it almost seemed like I felt bad for these bands because society decided that, okay,
these guys are better.
We're going to kill all these bands, but we're going to let Guns N' Roses stay alive. And
they're like Hanson. They remind me of Hanson.
Well, I always felt it was unfair. You know what I mean? I'm not putting them down, but like, okay, this band can survive, but the other band's going to take a hit.
But
I always thought that was weird.
There are certain bands, but remember this, Rat, so like Rat at that time, and you're talking about Way Cool Jr., right? And I'm a big Warren DeMartini fan, and Juan too, because you want to talk about the Dokken connection. Both of them were there, and actually Warren played with Don before Juan did, but Rat had Point Break.
Nobody Rides for Free.
Nobody Rides for Free. They were
Body Talk,
a mainstream
the Golden Child, Eddie Murphy.
90s era, right? They were a mainstream movie soundtrack in one of the biggest movies of, what was it, 91, 92? Huge. GNR didn't get that. They didn't get that till, they got for Terminator 2. But they were on par with that. So it's I don't know.
What I meant is like I did a whole show on Rat. I was showing album sales. I'm like, if you look at the album sales of Rat, the biggest album they had was Out of the Cellar, 2 million copies. Then every other album, only 1 million copies, only 1 million copies, and the Detonator album, only 500,000 copies. When every band was going up, they technically went down, and they were more. I'm not saying on purpose they're more talented, but they were a lot more talented than a lot of the other bands. It was just weird that these people
there are lots of bands like that. There are.
I know it is. It's weird.
It's one of those things that you hit right at the right time.
At the right time,
and it is part of its luck that you happen to be in the right place, right time. You happen to click with the group of people that are buying your albums, right? That are your radio mainstay. And there's a lot of bands like that came through that were somewhat successful. One of the best bands I use as a band that never quite made it. They didn't even have a one-hit wonder, but they were an amazing band. We saw them open. It was a band called Cold Sweat. They were a Warner Brothers band, and they had an album called Breakout, and they opened for Dio on Lock Up the Wolves tour. The singer Roy Cathy has one of the best voices of that era. Just an amazing band. Like, you hear them, and they are thunderous, and when you see them live, they killed it. Like, they rock. Everybody in Lakeland was going, holy crap, these guys are the best thing. But the problem is they didn't come around until 91.
Yeah. See, that's one of the things I missed about the 80s. When you talk about earlier about opening acts, that when you went to see an opening act because you didn't know, they might be the next big thing. Right?
Sure.
Because I saw Poison open up for Rat. Of course, they became big. We saw Tesla open up for Def Leppard, and then I think we went to the Mötley Crüe concert, Bob. I think that show was Faster Pussycat opened them up. Bands were earning their strides and moving up. And we all saw Dokken too, but I can't remember, Bob, who Dokken opened up for.
Dokken opened for Dio on the Sacred Heart tour.
I don't know if it was Judas Priest. I don't know.
I think it was Judas Priest.
And Dokken was that one band.
I saw them when they opened for Dio, and this was 86.
God, it's so hard to remember. But
Yeah.
you know, Dokken was that one band that they had the talent. George Lynch is considered one of the best guitar players from the 80s, you know, one of them.
Yep.
They had the songs, and Don Dokken versus most not all singers, because there's like singers that are considered freaks of nature, like Bruce Dickinson, freak of nature, Sammy Hagar, freak of nature. Don Dokken could sing live, like really live. He wasn't a studio singer, and it was almost like they were almost there to do an arena level headlining, but they just didn't quite make it. And I'm like, is it because they weren't like, I hate to say this, like, I'm thinking to myself, were they not because they were good looking? Kind of like, you know, Stephen Pearcy. I'm a guy, but he's a good looking guy. Poison, good looking group. A lot of these groups are good looking, but if they're not good looking, did that hurt Dokken? Because they had the songs.
Yeah, they were ugly.
And remember, Dream Warriors was one of the biggest songs for Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3.
Correct.
So they had the movie song, they had the albums, and I'm always like, what was it that they just didn't get them over that hump?
Judas Priest is always the one that freaked me out because we saw them with a bunch of, you know, the dudes were like, fucking Judas Priest. And I'm like, we at the concert, I'm like, you guys know he's gay, right? No, that dude nails the chicks, man. Girls are throwing freaking underwear up there, and this dude is all about the punani. And I said, nah, clearly this man is gay. Now, I don't know. My gaydar was on fucking high alert with this dude. I'm like, I don't know. But, you know, he's still singing, he's screaming the shit. I go, nah, that dude is gay. And then I'm not joking. Nobody even knew. There was no rumors, no nothing out, no nothing. And then all of a sudden it came out. No, he was full blown. Like he was the aggressive. He was a power bottom.
No, I remember. No, I remember when he left Priest, came out with Fight. And I remember when he announced, and you know that was a, you know, there was always. I had friends that, you know, always said that kind of like jokingly.
Exactly.
And I think they said it kind of like tongue in cheek and just because of the leather and the obvious like overtone. Eric and I had a gay older brother that transitioned to female. So we are completely not, we don't care. Believe me, we had our older sister turned into. So we don't have no hatred towards anybody. No, but I was just saying as a kid, I'm like, homie, man. A lot of people, and you know, like I had friends that picked up on the outfits.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And they're going, wait a minute, I've seen this before, like in movies. That's a little kind of S&M deal. And then you find out later when Rob talked about it, and he's like, that's exactly where I got my stuff. It's like,
hey, those leather chaps, dude.
He's like, you guys know where I got that stuff. But going back to Dokken real quick, they're an interesting band on, you know, and I saw them at Monsters of Rock. Now I saw them with Dio. I've seen Dokken a billion times. And it's funny. I actually posted a picture of a show from '90. It was a shot of one of my favorite shots of Don. It was funny because I found a couple rolls of film that I hadn't developed, and you do that when you go through your stuff over the years. I found some old footage of that I took of Dio in like '94 with Jeff Pilson and Tracy G. But with Dokken, it's interesting because yes, they had the music, but they were not as radio friendly. They were a rock.
No.
They were also, Don was older. So, you know, if you look at, and he looked older, and even look at the contouring that he was doing in you know, the makeup in Nightmare on Elm Street, the video, very heavily contoured. But you look at their videos, and they were, and they talked about this in, you know, pretty in depth. They followed trends. They never set anything. So like Rat set trends, right? As Stephen Pearcy called them, fashion metal.
Yeah, he took his fashion from Adam Ant.
Sure.
Yeah, Adam Ant.
Look, they all took their stuff from the New York Dolls.
You know,
and you know, David Bowie, and they all did that. You know,
you're 100% right, Birch, because yesterday I had a conversation with Hairband Basement. Okay, when you think of ballads, okay, I'm not making fun of ballads, but you know, there's certain ballads, you know, Every Rose Has its Thorn, there's certain like soft kind of a ballad, and I said Dokken ballads were different. You could call them ballads, but they really weren't ballads. Like Cinderella's Nobody's Fool. It's like a ballad, but it's not. And I think you're right, because if Dokken would have done more of your typical cry me type of ballad, maybe they would have got bigger. But their ballads were like
But Don didn't write like that. If you actually listen to even on the very overly produced stuff, so say Under Lock and Key, which is, Wagner did an amazing job. It's an amazing album. It's fairly slick, but it's still too rocky for. It's not Joey Tempest. It's not.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just not that radio friendly pop star kind of thing that the 14-year-old girls. Now you'll have 14-year-old girls that liked it. They liked Alone Again, but Alone Again was, the ballad of Dokken ballads, one of them. But it's a rock song, and
yeah, exactly. It can be considered both
a rock song, and it was. So if you actually listen to all their stuff, even I'll tell you a very funny one. One of my favorite albums that Don did, which was to me, it was the Lost Dokken album, which was his solo effort, Up From the Ashes. Some amazing work on that. There's so many great musicians on that. It's literally a laundry list of. It's a super group when you look on who played that, including Billy White. But listen to it. Now you have influences from a lot of European bands. You have Europe. You have a lot of these bands of more pop culture kind of feel. And listen to what Don's writing. It's rock. He cannot. It just, when he writes two songs. It's either the Beatles or it's rock, and he can't weasel his way into a radio hit. Even Dream Warriors. Dream Warriors was not his. He did not write that. That was Jeff and George wrote that. Don's version of Dream Warriors never actually got on the album. They had a thing where Don went off and wrote his, George and Jeff wrote theirs, and they brought their scratch tracks in, and they chose George and Jeff's. They didn't choose Don's because Don was more fast. It was more upbeat. Don's one of my favorite singers of that era, even though he screwed me up.
I give a lot of credit. I give a lot of credit to movie makers like Wes Craven, John Hughes, for using these bands that most people never use. John Hughes is famous for using Simple Minds.
Yeah, John Hughes. Yeah,
Psychedelic Furs. Wes Craven using a band like Dokken. I mean, a lot of big bands want to do. A lot of producers and directors want to do that. So that was
I only heard Dokken through Eric. I only ever heard Dokken through Eric. I mean, I see him and I think of the dirty old janitor guy, like laying in the fetal position, crying like over like a sweaty falafel fucking whatever is from some grubby ass back alley store. He just grossed me out. He's kind of like the Rob Halford guy. I'm like, I don't know. Eric rocked off. I never said turn it off. I was like, yeah, turn it up. That's good. Who is that again? That's the dirty old janitor. Oh, okay, cool.
If you like metal, and I'll tell you something funny.
But he's metal though. Yeah.
I always wonder, like for me there are certain bands that I'm a mark for. Dokken's one, Maiden's another, where they're just, I've seen them all a million times, and
all my friends love Dokken. All of them.
Met them all. Just for me, and Dio was another one. So it was Dio. Like, and I've had a chance to interview them all.
You interviewed them?
Oh God, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought you were just somebody that Eric hung out with. These guys get high or something. Oh, you were actually real. You were a professional.
I was in radio.
Oh, no, you were in radio.
Yes.
Oh, shit.
So that was.
How the hell? Why did you end up on Eric's show? How the hell did that happen?
Yeah. No, I'm a civilian.
That's funny. It's like a one time Eric had was that Dre Dyer, whatever. He was on some other big shows, whatever. Eric had Dre Dyer on, and I was like half drunk in England. I was getting him out of a bar, and Eric's like, I got this guy named Dre Dyer, and I'm like, oh, cool, whatever. So I wore a bunny outfit on the show, and I guess I insulted him a little bit. But Eric's like, no, he's actually important. I go, oh, I didn't know that.
Well,
I had no idea.
It's interesting when you're like a fan of a band, and it's so for Dokken, it's for me. I have my favorite album, and if you're a Dokken person, you know all their catalog. You have your favorites, and you wonder like, what does the other band think? And I think it was last year I interviewed Jeff, and we were talking about. I said, my favorite Dokken album is Tooth and Nail, because to me it's
same thing, same way.
It's
Straight
raw,
janitor.
it's angry, it's heavy. Everything about that is the heaviest album that they ever made, and I think that it's the most pure as
Played song at all the parties. Is what it is. It's
was-
always Dokken. That song is always at
I
the
know what
parties.
you're talking about, because you see, I brought this up before. It seemed like the albums that were made on a cheaper level, and what I mean by it is like if you look at Mötley Crüe, Too Fast for Love, and Shout at the Devil, cheaper, little bit cheaper production, right? Dokken, Breaking the Chains, in that album, a little cheaper production, and go to Def Leppard, High and Dry, little cheaper production, but how
High
it's
and Dry to
recorded
me
and how
is
it
my favorite.
sounds,
We saw
you
that.
can listen to it nowadays.
Saw it
Where
in the
like
concert.
listen, take High and Dry and take Def Leppard's Hysteria.
The one-armed drummer.
You can say that sounds a little out of date. You listen to High and Dry, it doesn't sound out of date. And these albums were made on a cheaper level, but it seemed like the rawness of the rock will last longer than the higher production.
We saw him with one arm. Remember, Eric, we were watching the concert. Dude's got one freaking arm, man.
Ryan, High and Dry to me is that one. And I think that all bands kind of have this like peak as far as for what from a musical purist standpoint. So for me, it's hands down Def Leppard, High and Dry is it. So you listen to On Through the Night. On Through the Night seemed like, okay, this is a transitional album. But when they released High and Dry, it was whoa.
It was rock.
This was something else that you went, it was raw, but it was amazing and it clicked. And what happened is when they did Pyromania, it's like, man, that's a great album. But it's also a little slicker and it doesn't have the feel. And there's a lot to that. And I like those out, which is why I like Tooth and Nail. And when you listen to Iron Maiden, right? Love Maiden, have them all, first album, Peace of Mind. But I'm also a Paul Di'Anno person because
Original
the very
singer.
first time I heard Maiden, in seventh grade, this kid wore one of my friends. I had gone to New Jersey for like a year and a half, unfortunately. But this one, I hated it, dude. It was
Male
great.
Prostitution. What did you do there?
Yes.
What did you do?
Yes. At 7. No, well, I was 12.
Damn, you were turning tricks at 7.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Hey, rough world, man. We all do it.
Dude.
I turn tricks, so don't worry.
Bubble Yum wasn't free.
Yeah.
So, but my one friend Jimmy Farside, he wore a Killer shirt, and I went, "What the hell is that?" Like I just saw Eddie, and I went, "What the hell is that?" And he said, "It's Iron Maiden." I was like, "Who are they?" I was like, "Cause that's cool." And he goes, "Oh, dude, you never heard them?" And he goes, "Come over to the house tonight." So leave school, go over to his house, puts on Killers, and I'm like hooked instantaneously.
Nice.
But it's funny because I love, the Bruce era stuff, but I'm such a big fan because it was that Paul Di'Anno version still had that punk element. It was raw. There's something magical about what they were doing. And to this day, I can, like when we do album nights, we'll play an entire album. And that's one of my favorite ones to do is do that early Iron Maiden stuff. It's like, for me, that's just,
That's how I am with the Smiths. Yeah.
Okay.
The early stuff. I love the Smiths. There was a time, I'm not joking, I just got tired of it. I got burned out, man. I got burned out of all these guys screaming into stuff, running around wearing tight clothes. I said, you know what? I want to get laid. So women were listening to the Smiths. Now you have women listening to, they're hot chicks too, but after a while, you're not quite sure where they're coming from. So I figured, since I'm a heterosexual, I'm going to go listen to the Smiths. I did the opposite. So all the other guys are still rocking. I was listening to the Smiths, and they're like, how are you getting laid? I said, because I switched, man. I got Depeche Mode, and I got the Smiths. And I'm like, I'm listening to all these James and like all these other bands.
Look, and we all did the listening to Depeche Mode.
We had a switch.
But we all went to different. Look, I have pictures of me. So I also did the thing. I took a picture of Joey Tempest into the hairdresser because I had hair.
Hell yeah!
I posted the pictures. I've always had very, very long hair, like to my waist. But I went into the hairdresser and I was like, I took a picture of Joey Tempest and I was like, I want that. And so I got the spiral perm.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
Here's the problem though. I'm 6'2" at that time.
Oh, damn, you're
and
tall.
110. I don't look like Joey Tempest. I just look like a beanpole with hair.
You didn't pull the Ramones, huh? You should have just pulled a Joey Ramone.
Yeah,
you're tall.
It was bad. It was so bad. But we all tried. We did what we had to.
Let me ask you guys this. This will be like the last section of the show. Then we'll end it. I always felt 90 bands got lucky. And what I mean by that is they got lucky. Now, some of them, not all of them, but there's a few of them that made fun of 80s and stuff. But if you really think about it, the 80s bands really broke down that barrier because their music was not everywhere yet. You couldn't put on like every radio station. Like a lot of the bands or the rock we listened to in the early 80s, we didn't hear it from the radio. We heard it from other people buying cassettes and tapes. Now, when bands start to break through, start getting popular on the regular billboards, it kind of like opened the gates where by the time the 90s came in, it was a lot easier because music got played everywhere. MTV was playing everywhere. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I always felt that the 80s, they take the biggest crap, but they're the ones that broke the barrier the most. So the 90s got in a lot easier. Am I right about that? Or you think
the early 80s MTV was so experimental.
Yeah.
So if you actually look at what they were doing with videos, and there was nothing for them to look at and go, hey, let's do what they did, right? There wasn't a template to go off of what not to do. So by the time you got, and so these are guys that basically learn the media as they're going forward. So by the time you get to the 90s, you started to see a very stylistic video. And one of the, a couple of the good ones, for me anyway, Garbage. I'm only happy when it rains.
I like Garbage.
So when you look at that video, that was one of those that you can look at it and go, yep, that's the era. But that only came about because of what came before it, which is music. That's everything, right? But the era of the 80s was that experimental transitional stuff. And then the people in the 90s went, okay, we don't want to do that. We don't want Flying Doves, Bonnie Tyler style, We don't want to do that. We don't want to have bad glowing eyes or bad, CG, like on in Still the Night, where they just totally ruined a video with this bad masking, where the David Coverdale cut out. And you don't want to do that. So what they figured out is, you know what? We don't have to do that nonsense. What we can do is go a little bit more grainy and a little bit more individual and kind of get into that. So yeah, the 90s, but that's music. That's everything that you do.
Yeah. Now you got Taylor Swift. You got Taylor Swift. She's singing to like little girls about wood. I'm like, whoa. Talk about Epstein Island. Shit. She's singing about wood to little girls.
You stand when you're an artist, like when you come along in your era, you're standing on what the other people did. Look, the 80s people, they learned from, you know, Johnny Cash, and they learned from Merle, and they learned from Waylon Jennings, and they learned from, you know, Zeppelin and the Doors of what not to do. Yeah, they learned from Ricky Havens. They learned
Burrito Brothers,
you know, and Flying Burrito Brothers. Yeah. But they learned from that. And look, even the punk scene did it. You know, it's like you look at what, which we just talked about, Bad Brains on our show, where, and you look at what those bands did, those early 70s bands, right?
The Sonics.
Sure. And what did they do and how did they do it? And then you go, well, okay, well, you just take the next step. But where did they all come from? They came from Dick Dale. You listen to Dead Kennedys, and it's a surf track.
I surfed for a long time.
If you want to hear something funny, listen to Holiday in Cambodia or Cesspool in Eden. That's a straight Dick Dale guitar riff. It's the Bird. It came out of that era, whether they knew it or not, which I would love to interview Jello for that. But they just took the next step, and that's growth, and that's how art happens.
Yeah, see, that's what I hate.
And create your own and steal what you can and create something better.
But that's what I hate is a lot of bands don't get to have that growth no more. When you think of the Ramones, right? No. The Ramones, they even admitted they didn't know how to play. They had to learn to play while they were a band. Sure. Juggles have said that. They had to learn how to play as a band. So you grew with them.
Yep. Well, now it's a cabaret.
You have to be Eddie Van Halen from the start.
Well, no, it's a cabaret now. The only growth you have is what's in your pants when all the girls come out half naked. Yeah. And you're like, this is it. This is our music, man.
The problem is nowadays, there were enough people that were talking about the amalgamization of music in the 60s and what electronics would possibly do. I think it was Jim Morrison actually did a bit on that, where he talked about what would happen in the people. Everybody will have a studio in their basement, and it will ruin music because there's not. But he was predicting what would happen, and it came true because now everybody is a producer. Everybody, and there's 1,000 voices screaming in the night. None of them are good. You listen to it and you go, no. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. And it's fine as a hobby.
Storm.
Yeah.
Well, Eric made an album, an AI album, and it sounds real.
Yeah. We did a show on here because we were brand new. Like
a whole show.
We could create a hair metal AI album.
An entire album.
We did it on this channel. We actually did. So, Birch, what days do you do your live shows?
There you go.
We're now on Tuesdays and Fridays, and then we do our live reactions, which are off channel. We do that actually on our website so we can't get dinged. We do that on Saturdays.
Now, I know Dr. Wu's supposed to have his own live show today at 4:20.
Yeah, getting ready for it right now.
Usually, in most cases, I do my live shows on Tuesdays and Friday also.
Yeah.
I do mine 10 a.m. Pacific time in the morning.
Oh, wow. You do yours in the morning?
Yeah, I usually do mine at 10 a.m. in the morning.
Oh, wow. I do mine after work. I have to rush home I started doing it. We used to do it at 8 o'clock. But it's like, I found that sometimes we run late. So like, I'll do like 8, 9, 10 o'clock. And by 10, and by the time I wind down, like after my show, I'm not in bed till 11. I can't do that. I'm a creature of habit.
My wife worked from home today, so I was able to
I see your comments, by the way, have been going crazy.
Oh, fuck.
My comment?
Comments.
Your comment section is just
comment section.
Up.
Yeah, some people said earlier there was an issue earlier with the comments. Somebody told me earlier that some were coming in, some weren't. So I don't know what.
There's a shitload of them.
Well, Birch, I hope this was like a different kind of a show I hope you had fun. Kind of a looser kind of a show. No,
sorry I crashed it. I didn't know. I had no idea.
No,
I didn't know who you were.
That's okay. I don't know who I am either. I always like talking music. It does it for me. That's one of my things that I'll never run out of stuff to talk about. But I appreciate you guys having me on. It's been fun. I love
We
talking.
can do a whole show on TNA if you want. Touch your ass.
So beyond that, we're gonna end the show
Titties.
today. And Birch, I'll be in your chat on Friday to
Cool.
see how's it going. I thank you for coming on, Dr.
Don't worry, I won't be there, so I won't
be
embarrass
jumping
you.
off and jumping on your own show coming up. Are you still gonna continue your show?
Who, me?
Yeah, like once you in here, are you starting your show?
Oh yeah, man! I've already taken fucking drugs, so I'm already started. You guys,
Well-
when you guys were talking, I was already dropping shit in my system.
Is your lead-in
All right.
track Flying Burrito Brothers?
Yes, because I'm retired, so I'm a disabled vet, archaeologist, bullshit guy. So I just do nothing but just talk philosophy and get high.
There you go.
So yeah,
All right. So beyond that, I'll talk to
Awesome.
everybody later. See you this Friday.
We'll build a brighter future for everyone.